the reasons again?
The fact that Squishy has never, in my experience, had a problem with people referring to her by female pronouns. That Squishy has been referred to as a woman in my presence, and they've never had an issue with it, right? And the fact that in private conversations in the past, when I would use those pronouns, right, in a setting where presumably Squishy would have no reason to fear her non-committal identity coming out, Squishy would still accept being referred to by female, right?
So
all of these bundles. I'm not exactly done, right? All of these bundled together. Well, you're gonna speak when I'm done. Right?
No, 1 second.
All of these bundled together to form a set of reasons one would think Squishy is being dishonest in that moment without additional background knowledge.
Think that people who have different gender identities are like different, like since they're young or something, right? If it's the case that you think people's gender identities can change throughout a life, then those things that you listed aren't going to count as evidence that she is lying to you. If you have the belief that people's gender identities can change throughout their life,
that doesn't make sense. That would just be you assuming that somebody is telling the truth at all times.
Well, what?
Look, I gave you the reasons to assume Squishy was being dishonest, and now you're saying, well, it's the case that you think gender identities can change, right? I just don't understand the relevance.
If gender identities can change, then because of Squishy's prior identification as a particular gender isn't going to be evidence as to why, if Squishy tells you this is my gender identity now, that you would think that she's lying or that they're lying.
Yeah, you're an idiot. You don't think somebody abruptly refusing to identify as what they've consistently identified as in the past is reason to think they're being dishonest, especially when they're motivated to remove a specific person from a community?
I don't know about the motivated to remove a specific person from a community.
Yeah, that would be because you're an idiot.
Hold on. You gave me 3 reasons that don't even turn out to be actual reasons.
Wait, but these aren't actually... Your response doesn't actually rule out that being evidence for thinking Squishy's dishonest, though.
Doesn't rule it as a reason.
You're just trying to say because somebody could have a change in gender identity, right? That rules out that an appeal to them identifying, say, as a woman in the past means it can't be the case they're lying. And not only did I give you the background knowledge of them identifying as a woman, right? I also appealed to the fact that they would have motivations to get me out of that specific community. And now you're telling me that none of those reasons actually justify... I'm sorry. Now you're telling me that none of those things justify an inference that somebody's being dishonest, which is retarded.
Obviously not. So...
you're just being a moron.
The only way you could get to dishonesty in this case is if there's some sort of evidence where Squishy lies in certain contexts.
You think I'm making a deductive claim?
No. Let me finish this before you...
I'm sorry, do you think I'm making a deductive claim, right? Do you think it's anything other than an inference? I'm confused as to what you're actually driving at here. Because it seems like you're just spouting gibberish.
I thought I was going to have some
the fact
moderation
that I
here,
can't conclusively demonstrate that Squishy was being dishonest, right, is reason to think that she...
Chum, you cannot rope me into a waste of time with Pogan.
It's an inference, right? It's going to be contingent on certain pieces of evidence, which I provided.
All right, so now that's dealt with. So the only way those 3 things...
Yeah, if this guy... Look, if he's just going to
Oh my god, look at this. Look at this! There we go.
Sorry, Pogan, you're muted. Stop interjecting.
Beautiful. So the only way that the 3 things that you listed are going to be evidence that Squishy was being dishonest is if you have a frame in which Squishy has used evidence in this way, or has any evidence such that dishonesty was used to say, okay, now I have a reasonable account as to why Squishy would be lying right now. But all that you've demonstrated would be evidence for continuing to assume that Squishy would identify as a woman, not that Squishy would lie that the gender identity would change.
And if you have, hold on, you don't have to provide any evidence about Squishy's behavior.
Oh, is that fucking Shima? No,
you could provide. Well, look, you could provide background evidence about other people, how they behave.
Sexual predator. Go fuck yourself.
Well, look, I'm just saying that you could appeal to background information about people that Squishy shares.
So I don't get banned. All right. So as I was saying, so we have these sets of premises that don't seem to justify Squishy being a liar. All they justify is that Squishy would whether you would assume that Squishy continues to identify in some particular way.
You're a moron.
Yeah, that's not true. Pogan's already given evidence. He said that there are background evidence.
You gonna respond, Pogan?
Well, look, I'm just
Let Seamus talk.
Is this?
I have Seamus at one. I can only
all
hear
I'm saying
that his
is
voice
Pogan
is
already
on. I can't actually
provided background
hear
evidence. Look,
Is this
Why-
Pogan talk or is this
Why are
someone
you
else
ignoring
talking about?
Seamus?
hold on one second. Hold on one second. So look, I mean, Pogan's already provided the
I see
evidence.
that Pogan has gone quiet. I'll take that as a win.
Listen,
Because
he said
Seamus is
inductively.
talking.
Why is Seamus
Public
talking?
room. I don't have.
Well, look, I mean, the moderation's going to have to work both ways.
We weren't
You're
having a
not.
conversation. Okay.
Listen, the moderation's going to have to work both ways. You're not going to have to allow him to put me to one and then talk over me. So, I mean, who's doing the modding here, Chum? Is that your job today?
Well, I'm doing this conversation, yeah.
I'm just saying he's lowering me down to one and then talking over me. I mean, I kind of take umbrage with the lowering down to one, but I might be able to get over that if he just wouldn't talk over me. But anyways, the evidence is that inductively, okay, people who change their position, okay, once they've held it firm, okay, in certain contexts where they're motivated, okay, have motivations for doing that, such as getting Pogan banned, okay, that's good reason to think that they're lying. Here's the inference. The inference is most people don't radically change a heartfelt position overnight, okay, or very quickly. It's a gradual process. Squishy changed her position, and that position was in line with some motivation that would then get Pogan banned, which she would like to achieve that end. So is that reason to think that she might be lying? Fuck yeah, it is. That's reason to think anyone might be lying. Now, the real question is how much evidence does that constitute? But so you're not ace enough to ever figure shit like that out. You're just trying to defend your little fucking girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would just skirt past the reasons I gave you and act like it
already
wouldn't
explained
be
why the reasons
reason to think. Look, I don't know why you would skirt past the reasons I gave you and think it wouldn't be reason to infer that somebody is likely dishonest. That you're just, if you think it's not the case that A, establishing somebody has been inconsistent with their position, and B, establishing somebody has a motive to get me banned from the community, if you think those two reasons are not enough to make the inference that Squishy is likely being dishonest about her gender identity, right, without any background knowledge that would contradict it, that's a totally justified inference.
No, you can't go from like someone is inconsistent and someone doesn't want me here to say someone is being dishonest. You're
completely ignoring half of the evidence I cite.
It's an inductive inference based on the way that most people behave. That's what you need. That's what it is, Pogan. It's an inductive inference based on the way that most people behave. Okay, so those inferences are going to apply to Squishy. Okay, all things being equal, and that's what you just said. All things being equal, pretty much.
Plot and all kinds of guesses about how Pogan would act if this was a plan to get Pogan removed from the server.
Wait, is Seamus
talking about people
saying that like I'm like trying to conspiracy
that have expressed in the past multiple times that they have a desire for me not to be in the community, right? This is uncontroversial. If Squishy was in the room, they would concede that they have had that motivation and that they've expressed that motivation.
That's
right?
irrelevant.
So that's half of the evidence I'm citing. And the other half is the fact that when somebody is inconsistent with their position, presumably having held a different position for a very long period of time, in conjunction with that motivation, yes, it's reason to think they're trying to pull a gotcha or be dishonest to get that person removed from the community. This is a justified inference.
You're saying that they knew. You're saying that they knew ahead of time that you were going to react this way and refuse to make the change and cite that you think it's a joke. They had to know that going in order to set you up, in order to get you banned.
That's not controversial, though, right?
I mean, you could predict the way that Pogan might react if he was lied to, right, by someone he knows is lying. You know, and especially if he were to say, no, you're not that gender because you have talked to me before, and I bet you just want to get me banned.
Motivation to not want someone around, doesn't it?
Okay, so the 1% volume thing is not working. Helena, maybe you can fix this. Chum doesn't want to touch as a 10-foot pole. I don't blame him. Socrates has me on 1% and he's talking.
Well, he was just doing brief interjections during your speaking the same way he was doing when Pogan was speaking. So that's
How can we come to a reasonable expectation about which he's really engaging in once he said he's lowered to me 1%? You know, I'm thinking that mine's going to be more likely.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Tom said it was fine.
Really aren't in a position to be whining about mods in your situation.
Yes.
So But I've given you the reason. I think it's fine. So let's just not talk about moderating decisions here, unless it's like egregious. You know what I mean? So
Look, this is open and shut though, right?